All right, everyone. Welcome. My name is Danny Ross, and we're getting ready to start another wonderful session of AI Lunch and Learn. Today, we're going to be focusing in on the operations dashboard as we build out our Drive 360 framework and dashboard. And what's really good about this process that we're going through, it's taking a look at the different elements that are required to run a successful business. Entrepreneurs, small businesses, medium businesses, we're all in a different degree of challenge and issue with our businesses as far as growing revenue. Ultimately, the systems that we have in place have a big impact on the success or failure. And so today we're going to continue. We've done the business overview dashboard, we've done the leads dashboard, marketing dashboard, sales dashboard, and now we're working on the operations dashboard. And of course, we're going to roll all of these into one ultimately. But I wanted everyone to kind of see the steps as we create each one. Makes you think a little bit about your particular organization, nonprofit, business, corporation, what may be, and you're looking at the different steps to growing that revenue. So if you have questions, please go ahead and throw them in the chat. I've already shared some of the usual links. I've also put in this week's workbook in there, which should have all of the prompts that I'm going to use. I'm also going to share this deck with you at the end as per usual. If you have missed any previous weeks, you can go back on our YouTube channel. The link's in the chat as well, and you should be able to find them. I'm having the AI have a little fun creating new thumbnails every week. All right, everyone, let's go ahead and jump right in. I've got a lot of stuff to share this week, and I want to make sure we cover as much of it as possible. All right, everyone, quick question. This is something that we all ask ourselves on a daily basis. If you're like me, you're up early trying to figure out what am I supposed to be doing today, and that's where all these dashboards are really coming in handy for me. It allows me to summarize the day, get started, have the AI do all of the heavy lifting to summarize and organize at the beginning of my day. And so these are the things that we see happening in our lives almost every day. We've all said one of these. I thought someone else was handling that. I completely forgot about that. What's the latest version? That kind of thing. These are all the things that happen. The owner memory bottleneck. If you're a solopreneur, small business entrepreneur, you're going to have these items. How you organize your day is important, of course, and we all use different tools, and the different pieces can be all over the place. It's where you can be in your own way of yourself and or your team when they have to come to you for details on something just because it's only exists on your desk or in your head. These are all things that we're working to streamline here and make smoother. The hidden memory tax. This is where we're always going through things and completing our task, but it requires us to manually continue to do these things. We're going to miss things. Who is responsible for a particular item? All of those types of things. Last minute emergencies. This is daily occurrence, of course, things that need to be escalated to you that you have to handle. You're the only one who can handle it. And so, of course, that causes work stoppages and issues. So what we'll work on today is streamlining all of this, putting it into a single truth, if you will, so it's easier for everybody to check in on where the task lists are. You, as the person in charge, can figure out what needs to be delegated, standardized, so it's a SOP or standard operating procedure, and what can be automated. This is where the AI part of it comes into play. How can we make it so that the right amount of automation is always in place? These are the things we're going to make sure that we're addressing as we go through building out this dashboard. Why does AI change the game? It's real simple. And again, it doesn't have to be ChatGPT. It can be whatever large language model that you wish to use, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini, it doesn't really matter. But the way it can help is it can grab everything that it needs to get pulled together into one place from all of your disparate tools. And as they continue to expand the plugins for, in this case, we're using ChatGPT Work, as it continues to expand all of this, those agents can have approved access to pull this data together in a fast way. And it can, on its own, take steps that you've approved and multitask and multi-step formats, and you can create those tasks to run daily, weekly, monthly, however you need them to run. and it's coordinated across everything in your business. Your task list, if it's like mine, it's just a list of things. And it's a lot ever expanding list of things, and it doesn't actually get done ever. And so what the AI can help you do as you train it is it can look at that list of things, those multiple thousands of emails. I think in mine right now, it's a ridiculous number of unread email in my inbox. It can take all of the data from all of your different file folders and wherever you keep them on your desktop or cloud or wherever, and pull it all together to deal with the things that need to get executed on a daily basis and a weekly basis. Okay. So where the dashboard comes into play is it takes that list of items and then talks about who owns it, when is it due, what's blocking it, where is that latest file, does do we have the resources, money, commitment to support it, what happens if it's late. So the AI can look at all of that and give you back the information and the approvals that you need to make. So if we take a look at the starting point, it always starts with the same way. And again, I've shared multiple times with you the interview prompt. There's also one in the workbook and in this deck, so you'll get that as well. We won't have to run it, of course, because we've all run it. And so we'll skip through this, but I like to be complete in the decks and the workbooks that I create so everybody has that same starting point. And then now the thing that's changing is we're going to work on what's called an evidence map for our operations. And so they're dealing with operations likes to deal with facts. They don't like to deal with theories. They're not in marketing. They want to know what's real. And so the idea is the sources of data that operations functions from, whether they're dealing with the accounting and bookkeeping or they're dealing with legal. And so all of those groups usually roll up into operations and administration. So the idea is those guys generally like to deal with facts. And so is it the right source material? Is it the correct, if you're connecting to different accounts and things like that? Does your AI have the permission? Is the information current and updated and real? And does it require human approval? So the connection audit prompt, again, this is one that we've all run before. Again, what we're making sure is the tools that we're using, and I tried to keep the list short for our examples, but you can add in all of these other tools, your CRM, project management, what are you using, Slack, Notion, messages, whatever you're using to communicate with each other. Do you have standard operating procedures? You drop those and train up the AI on those. Drop them in a file folder in Google Drive and let the AI learn them. So these are all things that are really, really simple to do. And you feed all of these into your AI as you train it up. And we used to call it a knowledge base, but it's the same concept. Pull all the information and so that it has the ability to get to that approved data and deal with it in an approved manner. Okay. And then the last thing it says here is do not build a dashboard until I approve the available resources, sources. That's the key. You want it to run this so that it already knows what it needs to know, and then you can go on from there. After that, we're going to start training the AI on the evidence and how it should be handled, what's real. And these are the components of creating a good source for the AI, meaning these are things that are factual. If the source does not prove it, the dashboard should say unknown evidence not found. Is it a dated email? Is it a physical or digital file? An approved procedure, a documented decision that it's done before. If it's going to automate something, you want to be able to say, all right, hey, learn this, I approve this. And from going forward, you can go ahead and take this task or step. For example, a recorded customer request, that's something specific, factual. Those are the types of things that you want the AI to be working from. And if it doesn't have the data to make a decision on its own, it needs to ask for help. And it should never, ever make things up. It should always say, hey, I don't actually know this. You asked me to do something, it requires this knowledge. I don't have it. get me the source or give me a source, and I'll be able to take that task on. But don't do anything, just make stuff up. Okay. So those are the important things. So this is what we were talking about. Is it a verified fact? So in the email, it specifically, states a time and a date. So no interpretation is required. Inference. This is so funny. We have a lawyer, a legal group on the call. So they know this stuff, but it applies to AI intelligence as well. If you are looking at inference, a customer may be waiting for a revised proposal. It must be labeled as such. It's not a fact. And then same thing, a recommendation is the flip side, which is you give it the instruction set and or it gives itself the instruction set to confirm something before it moves on to the next. All right. So we always want to make that distinction between a verified fact and something that the AI is trying to infer from previous data that has been given. All right. So this is where you have to be very specific. Great. So let's talk about Drive. Drive is the framework that we've been using for weeks and weeks and weeks here, and it gets applied in different ways for each of our different dashboards. In this case, deploy is to take a look at the priorities and assignments and so on. In this case, reach is about the communication specifically, so it's not a marketing in this example. Implementation is real straightforward as well. We're going to get down to putting these tasks into standard operating procedures. Validate, again, just make sure that last slide we just looked at, and then expand is to create either SOPs, delegate something, do an automation, and then look for additional growth opportunities. So when we talk about deploy, you want simple questions, but powerful questions. What are today's top 3 priorities? To have the AI take the time and sort through all of these different task lists and things that you have and bring just the top 3 to you is amazing. It saves so much time. Even when I'm looking at my own dashboard that I have the AI building out and working on for me, this is the dashboard, conflict, resolve the conflict, deliver the day. That's the messaging that it puts a little meaning at the top. So 10 o'clock, it's just pointing out to me that I have a conflict where I have a 9:30 meeting, I have a 10 o'clock meeting, and it's just overlapping. And so it's just telling me, hey, you got to watch that. And then same thing with I have a lead, that I need to make sure happens to the class, of course. And then it's saying, hey, what happened here? Why didn't these get paid? And we need to figure that out. Something happened. I would assume my card expired. But, again, the AI is pointing out I'm getting a message from 2 people that's saying, hey, they couldn't process a payment. And so I just need to go figure those out. And then Drive. What are the different things that I need to work on today? That's what this is important. It's condensing everything that's in my email and showing it on my dashboard so I know and I'm aware of it. If I was to use the class mockup version, just so that you can kind of see this, it starts off with it likes to again give you a little motivational thing. And then it's going to break down in our mock dashboard here that we have business brief, Gmail, Google Drive, calendar. So figuring out all these things together, and then 2 conversations need attention. So it's making something up, but it's a good idea of this is what I see on my dashboard. These conversations need to happen today. Prepare for your North Star call. Bring them all into a consolidated place so that you can see all of these things, and having the AI go out to your email and your dashboard and pull them into something that you can use automatically every morning is absolutely fantastic, right? So, which meeting requires preparation before we start? What decision is holding up other work? What requires the owner's approval? On and so forth. So that's where we're talking about getting the day started properly and getting all these tasks lined up. Again, customer requests, vendor commitments, team questions, approvals waiting to be sent. This is the idea of the reach and drive. So these are the things that need to happen from an operational point of view every day. Is the work actually getting done? Active projects. Do we have an assigned owner? Somebody responsible for getting it done? Due dates? All of these things are all listed. And then the 5 accountable questions. Is there a real named owner? Is there somebody who's actually on the task? Is there clear, specific next action, and so on? So if you've ever worked in a Fortune 500 company, these are all things things that you deal with on a daily basis. And then so making sure that the AI flags things that need to be reviewed before it becomes a missed deadline. So validating. And then this is where it's going back and doing a check of the end of the day. Hey, did everything get done? What's still dragging? What's still not happening properly? And then perhaps it's because the execution is unclear. We want to make sure that we get all those tasks. This is where, as a business, you create systems. If you create the systems, they resolve. Growth without systems creates bigger problems. Systems create room for growth. And so you can delegate, you can automate, and sometimes you can think of delegation as the same thing as automation if you're talking about AI. So you figure out what AI can get done, and then you give it to it, and then it goes from delegation, quote unquote, to automation. Really, really related in our conversation today. All right, so let's start continuing out the building process. I have some additional prompts. Should be in the workbook, but we'll make sure if it's not in the workbook that. By the way, if you guys have questions, just go ahead and ask them in the chat. I'm happy to keep up with that. All right, so here's the workbook for today. And again, we can see here. Let's go through. We've done that one. Connection audit. We've done that one. And this is where I want to make sure I get all of the different ones. We can create this one here. Let this one run. So let's see what it tries to do with this one. I'm always curious. All right. I'm going to drop that in there. Just make sure it's got anything we need. All right, we'll run it on medium. If you notice in here, in chat, you can run these, run it on light because we want it to complete quickly. It's a mock-up. It doesn't have to be accurate. So the idea with ChatGPT and Claude and all of these, they use a certain amount of processing power, which translates into what they call tokens, which translates into credits. You only have so many of them depending on the plan that you have, your monthly plan. And so the idea is you use the appropriate level of advance versus, how much energy do you want the AI to put into this task? And you can say light, medium, and heavy, of course. And so this just says, how much time to spend thinking about it. And so it's going to go ahead and create that Drive operational dashboard for us. It's using, again, fictional data, and we wanted to stay within the guardrails. Hopefully, this won't take too long. I've shown you the end result, but I did want to kind of build one as we went along as well, because that's always fun, I think, to kind of do both. And so while it's doing that, I'll bring this other one back over so you can kind of see where we're going with this. It's so funny because, I mean, this is a personal note. I woke up today in pain from the hip. I'm like, not that old. What the heck is going on? I'm like, all right, let's do some Tylenol. Let's do some ibuprofen. I happen to have a customer while I'm just chit-chatting while this thing is building. I happen to have a customer who she runs an adult care facility. And so she has lots of clients of elderly age. And so she was like, hey, do this. And I'm like, I'm definitely going to do that. But I have to, 4 meetings I have to finish first. This is the entrepreneur part of life. And while it's doing that, I'll show you her. Almost there. Sorry about the delay. One of the things that, when you look at all of the things that AI can do, and if I look at,
Thanks for doing this. Would you mind putting the
there we go.
links in the chat again?
Say that again.
Would you mind putting the links in the chat again?
Oh, sure. No problem.
Thank you. I want to follow along.
Absolutely. We can definitely do that. There we go. Those are the links here for the website. And then here is the workbook. I'll give you that again. There we are. And there's the workbook. And that will have the prompts in it that will walk you through this week's lesson. So yeah, this is the website we built for her. And there's Jennifer. And she is a true professional. She does a wonderful job of taking care of her patients, and they have a lot of fun. So we like to show the fun that they're having. And right now she is in Snellville. So if you have an elderly someone and you happen to be in the Snellville area, she's a wonderful facility over there. All right. So let's get back. Okay, this thing is definitely running slowly. We'll keep rolling through here while it builds. This is where we talk about depending less on memory and creating SOPs, delegating recurring work, automating safe steps, and standardizing templates. So these templates save time and effort for both the AI and you because now you're giving the AI something to base whatever document, presentation, deck, video on so that it knows what you want it to use. So like when I build out things like the dashboard and the workbooks, it's a perfect example of where why this is important. So I'll show you what I was working on earlier today, where I asked it to redo the workbook that it gave me in the first space right here. I'll make this a little bigger so you can read it. And it built out a workbook, and I had it do that, and it was wonderful in some sense. But then I realized, sorry about the scrolling, I see that it repeated a problem it had last week. So this is where we talk about AI not being perfect. And it built out the workbook, but it didn't have any images or actual prompts in it. Okay, so I said to it, we fixed this last week. Let's do it again. And so it did, went out, tried it again. It rebuilt it. And I'm like, okay, perfect. Opened it up. And I'm like, all right. Now the prompts are missing. Redo it again so the complete prompts in there so the class can execute on them. And it said, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no. It's so funny when you work with AI, you get to laugh at some of the things that it says because it is literally going to agree with you. Oh, yeah, yeah, you're right. I noticed that wasn't in there. When you click on the detail, you can see what it's doing. It's like, I found the cause. So then it starts building out. But what I like about the new version, and this is what I was trying to show you here, it actually steps it through step by step, what it's thinking, what's it doing, so that you can kind of follow along with it as it does it. And then that way, not only is it learning, but you're learning how better to communicate with it. If you see that it's doing something that doesn't make sense or you don't want it to do, you just tell it to stop. Okay. And then redo that particular execution. And so this is where you get into that. And this is what I was laughing at right here. It goes, you're right. The prompts need to be fully executable. Really? No kidding. I'll replace the 7 prompt block, so it's going to go on and do the work. It is hilarious watching this thing build sometimes. All right. Is it there yet? Is it soup yet? All right. I did the workbook. Let's go back up here. Oh, sorry. Almost done. And so it's building out the website and it's assembled. It's already done. So now it's going back and testing. And by the way, the reason why it's taking so long is if you look at the prompt, it's doing a lot. Okay. That's why it's taking a minute to do all of this. All right, we'll let that run. We're almost there. Let's keep rolling. Not only, again, you're teaching the AI, you're learning as well. And so when you're prompting, it's important that you give it a clear and exacting prompt so that it'll give you back clear and exacting information. Whenever you're doing the statuses in your different operations and things like that, you want to use clear language, both going in and coming back out. So that it is never any inconsistencies and you're not surprised by the results when you get things back. These are all good. These are real simple, clear things that the AI is going to mark the data with so that you understand and it has no vagueness to it, in other words. And so we're going to do we already did the business brief. We already tested the connections. We've already done the step through of these things here. Again, it's just kind of breaking it down so that you can easily see where we're going. This is let's keep going here. All right, bottleneck, no named owner. Yep, we've talked about that. And the bottleneck finder, I like this prompt. So the other one should be done by now. We have this operations here, so we can pop it out. We'll open it up in a new tab. All right, let's see, what is it building here? All right, it's telling you what it's using to connect. It's telling you the things that are top three priorities. Let me see if I make this. There we go. Make it a little larger for you guys. It's telling you all of the signals and where it is, the deploy, drive, and then the checklist handoff. So it's building out this really interesting way of looking at it. Verified fact. These are things that we know. Customer onboarding may need expectation. This is an inference from the data, the Gmail, calendar, and a timing mismatch. Remember when I showed you my real dashboard? It was showing, hey, this is a inference. It's saying, it looks, well, actually, that was a fact. It was showing that I had two meetings that were overlapping each other in my calendar. So that's a verified fact. In this case, it's showing you an inference that it's put together. And then unknown website accessibility review has no completion date. So it's telling you you have a task, many tasks on my task list, and this particular one doesn't actually have a date. So it's an unknown. So this is something we need to fix, obviously. I don't think these are clickable. Oh, no, yeah, it is. Man, AI is wonderful. All right. So what it's showing you is the launch checklist marks accessibility as required, but no report was found. Unknown, evidence not. So it's just telling you that the owner is not known and that it's going to be a blocker when you try to complete that particular task. So this is the type of thing you want the AI to do. And then it's saying we need human approval. And it's the same, what you really, really want is the AI doing all of this gathering work for you. You want it to say, who's the owner? Is it all good? Is there an issue or a dependency that we need to work on? You want all of this put together in a single dashboard that the team can share that's telling you all of the things that have to happen daily, weekly, so on and so forth. So I think this is pretty good. All right, let's keep building. And so we're going to pull out the bottleneck finder. Again, we're going to let it do a mock version of it. And it's kind of already given us some of that, but we're going to pull out the rest of it. Just had that up here. Hold on. Here we go. And if we're looking through our thing here, we have our dashboard and master drive operations. First, verify access to my brief. Okay, good, good. And bottleneck finder. So let's grab this prompt. And again, we're just going to have it make some stuff up simply because we don't want to take the time to actually build a real one. And so we'll drop that in here. And again, you run all of these prompts on your own. I'm going to run it with light, but if you're doing this for real, you're probably going to want to run it in medium or high, depending on how critical these steps are. And so it's going to run through that. And so it knows it's building a mock-up, and that's fine, because that's the whole point of this exercise. If we go back to this is the first one, the second one. Okay, good. Drive operations. I really like the layout. The layout is good. And then here's the 10 questions that close the loop. Again, in our prompt, we asked it to give us the top three, and then also as an ongoing daily, weekly type of thing, here's the things that we need to focus on, the top 10 things that we need to focus on, in addition to the critical three. What I like about the way it's laid it out here is you and the team can have a conversation on each one of these, and you can just share this with them and say, okay, or delegate things to them, have the AI be delegated to, so on and so forth. So these are all the things that we want to be able to do. And by it being connected directly to your calendar and Gmail, It is doing this job that you take an hour in the morning. Instead, it'll hand this summary to you every day, and then you can focus on actually resolving whatever it is that needs to get resolved. That's where it really is amazing. All right, so this is still working. And so what we're looking for is when we identify a bottleneck, and because it's built on evidence, and then the likely operational impact, the smallest safe improvement, what can we do to get it fixed quickly and safely? And then who is going to be assigned? And then how we'll know that it actually worked. And that's where we're going through this exercise. And so what it's looking for, repeated daily and duplicate work, missing owners, multiple conflict, recurring work with no documented process. We have plenty of that in our daily lives. And then work that stops when one person is available. That is usually you. And so we're just pointing out the obvious in that one. All right. So we're going to run that. If a task happens more than once, we should document it. That's a pretty simple statement. The challenge is, how do we get that documentation to be simple to execute? And then who does it? In this case, we can have the AI do it. We review it and then make it part of a weekly workflow. And so if you look at the steps that need to happen, how is it easy to do, replicatable, and that the task itself works all the way through to completion. We have to make sure that whatever we're creating a procedure, we're documenting it in a real way, effective way, but it's simple to execute on. We don't want to make it overly complicated because it won't get done. This is where AI comes in. AI doesn't get tired of doing repeated tasks. It doesn't complain. It'll just execute upon it. Once you've got it streamlined and working in the right direction, it will go ahead and do the task for you. And I love that about it in the sense that for $20 a month, I can hire an employee that this is absolutely perfect for. Because, right, you can define all of these things. And once you've defined them, you can hand them off to the AI to execute. And it doesn't get tired of doing that same task over and over again. It'll just run it through it. It's telling me here that the ranking is completed. The lead recommendation is intentionally narrow. So it's reading each skill and going through. All right, so it's getting close to hopefully where we want it to go here. As a matter of fact, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to run these in parallel as well. We're going to take two tasks. A little pro tip here. You don't have to wait for one task to complete before you start another one. We're going to go ahead and get the SOP builder going. There's a couple of different ways you can do this. In the chat GPT itself, you can just go back one step and start another chat thread. That's one way to do it. And the other one is, of course, you could just duplicate your tab and create another one so that you have another tab and it's running a similar task. So you can do it either way. Nice thing about agentic work is it doesn't require you to just sit here and wait. You can go in here, and so I can go in here. I can grab the next prompt that I want to utilize, which is over here to the right. Usually a little bit more organized, but today is one of those days. Thank you. All right. I like that. Okay. Magic prompt there. And we have this here. Okay. It's interesting. I like the way it's kind of done it here. And so we have the connection audit. And we've got to find the bottleneck. All right. And then we have, let's see. ChatGPT Work. All right, let's just grab that there. Okay, I'll let that run. So that'll give us another version there running at the same time. Okay, so if we get this here, this is the find the bottleneck version. Ba, 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 ba. Find the friction, fix the flow. That's hilarious. So urgency, frequency, business impact, ease of use. Launch approvals have no name decision owner. And so it's showing you a little rating system for each one, meaning, again, the stuff we were looking at here, urgency, frequency, business impact, and ease of improvement. And so, how does it rank, if you will, almost a little warning indicator. That's pretty cool. And then it's walking through the evidence, and then it is deciding on likely impact, missing information, and so on. That's just one of them. And the idea is for each one of them, you have the vendor handoff is blocked, customer delivery date. So these are all the bottlenecks, and it's laying them out one at a time. I love the way it's kind of summarizing them because then you can dive into a particular one and see exactly what's the information that's missing and what needs to be done about it, how we know it'll work. Of course, the vendor will say, I've got it, I got the package. So this is pretty cool as well. And you're going to build all of these into the big, if you will, master operational dashboard. So that's the goal. So it's the bottleneck finder. That's built out. That's pretty cool. I like it. It's pretty quick, relatively speaking. Okay. And there we go. That was actually faster than the last one. As a matter of fact, we're going to jump ahead. There's our SOP builder. And I'm going to grab the delegation brief. Actually, I'm not going to do that one. I'm going to skip that one. And then act as my and do automation review. I like that one. We'll do this one. So this one is the automation review. Okay, act as my operational manager, automation manager advisor. And we want to walk through all of these things and put them all together. And so the idea being, as we build each one of these, actually, I can do it right here since it's already done. This is my operational mockup manager. And I can go ahead and drop it in here, let it run right here. Basically, we've asked it to do the SOP builder. So it's going to take things that are recurring every time and just putting them together into one dashboard, if you will. And so standard operating procedures are part of every business. And the more you have these documented and so that everybody understands the playbook, then it simplifies everyone's life. They're not waiting for you to make a decision on should we do this? How do we do this? You're basically able to delegate. And again, you can delegate to a human being on your team, or you can delegate to AI. You can say, hey, it's okay, I approve, go ahead and do these 10 things. That's what I create a workflow, if you will. I have a weekly workflow that helps me with building out these classes, and I'll show you that when we're done because I want you to go through the flow of it, and then I'll show you the overall automation that I run every week. All right, so we have an SOP builder, and it's going to look at all of the inputs. It's going to follow your instructions. It'll follow your boundaries that you set for what it considers quality and completion. It'll say, okay, as long as I stay within these walls, I can go ahead and complete that task. And then, of course, we want to validate everything that is produced and make sure it's accurate before you accept it. This is one of those old training slides, but the idea is you build out these series of steps. And if you're in operations, this stuff makes you smile. If you're not in operations, you're like, this is why I'm glad I have AI because I don't want to do this stuff every week. But again, if you're in operations and your personality is such that you love this stuff, This is all of the steps that are required and making sure that the task is not only delegated to someone, but actually gets completed. And if it doesn't get completed, make sure that there's an escalation. So it's very clear of all the things that we want to accomplish. And so the delegation brief, that's why I said I'm not going to actually run this prompt. It is in your workbook, but you can see here, all of the steps and pieces of it. And again, AI loves this stuff. You just give it to it and it'll put together and create a brief that says, here's what we're doing, here's who's responsible, and so on. So this is the safeguards. The AI does not assume any of these things, and that's where it's really important. And so I'm going to give you this deck in just a moment. And then the automation review, that's the one that we're running. Let's see if it's where it's at. Yeah, it's working on it. So it's making an automation advisor. So it takes the bottlenecks and the recurring work and puts it into an automation portfolio. What I like about this concept is now that you've got all the pieces put together, you want the AI to use everything that we've built throughout the whole lesson here and put it into this automation step where first you review it and say, okay, here are things that we can definitely make a template of. Here's something that we can make an SOP from. Here is something that we can automate. Ultimately, the goal is to get to the automation part of it. And now it's telling me, oh, it's giving me a notification about the previous one that we just did. And so I think we're good. So there's the bottleneck analyzer. First, we're going to find the problem. And now we're working on the automation to help us deal with the problem on a weekly basis. So automate now, automate after documentation, assist with AI, keep human execution, and then keep fully human. So these are the different things we want the automation advisor to run and tell us, hey, here's things that I've identified that is a no-brainer. You just hand it to me and I'll take care of it from this week on. I need a little bit more source documentation before I make it it does repeat, but because we don't have an SOP for me to train on, I'll just tell you to document it and then I can automate it. The same thing with the rest of the other two. Where's the AI going to be in there? Well, that seems like a duplicate slide. Morning operations brief. I think I have a one for that. Hold on. Let's make sure we have it. All right, don't see that one. Okay. We can just tell it to run it. For some reason, I'm missing one prompt. I apologize for that. All right, we'll let it run. While it's thinking about it, we'll go take a look at the other one. Actually, it should be a very short prompt. Oh, I see what it's doing. It's building out another dashboard. Okay. All right, risks and blockers, one next action. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Everything is there. It is running that last one for me. Perfect. And that'll be the last one. We have successfully completed all of the tasks. Let's go back into this one here. Automation Advisor was the last thing we had it build. Yep, there we go. And we popped that one out. And yep, oh, 1 o'clock. Bye-bye, Tracy. Thank you for jumping on. Let me drop this in the chat here for you. The share link right here. Copy share link. There we go. Perfect. There you go. All right. So we have everything here, and I'll make sure that that share link is attached to the YouTube video as well. So if you want to watch the replay. And there we go. I think we're on the last one. And everybody, here's the automation advisor, the last one in the step. Mhm. And by the way, you can create these as permanent domains so you can save them. And there you go. This is the automation one, 5 processes. So 5 processes, automation after documentation, assist, but keep. And so it's breaking it down. Recommended, this one can become automated. And then you have other ones, automate after documentation, assist. And so it's finding those bottlenecks, creating the SOPs, and then putting it into a final step. So hopefully that really helps you guys with all of the different steps. And then here's the morning brief that you would get. And again, you can turn this into a dashboard if you want to as well, but it tells you all the different things and then where you are, what needs to happen, 6 events that need to be worked on, and so on and so forth. And then whether it's fact or not fact, it's beautiful. I love it. All right, everyone. Hopefully, this one was helpful as well. And we're going to have a definite goal of rolling these all into one master Drive 360 dashboard. I think it's going to be a lot of fun when we put all of this together into one app, if you will, and we'll execute on our daily lives using this dashboard. So, all right, everyone, have a fantastic rest of your week. I'm going to go soak in a tub of Epsom salts, I believe was the recommendation. All right, everyone, have a great week. Bye bye.